Hey, my friends, Scott Bridwell here. That's right, I'm back. It's been a while. I actually took a couple of weeks off after my dad's death and just took some time to think and, do all that stuff you do. It's a horrible thing to go through. Don't wish that on nobody, but it's something we all have to experience in life, unfortunately. Right now, I'm on vacation. I'm in Vancouver, Washington, visiting my children. Had this scheduled for a while prior to my dad dying. I actually thought about canceling it there for a little bit. And then I thought, you know what? I need this. But while I'm there, I'm also going to schedule some podcasts. And so what I did was I set up 3 or 4 podcasts. One just canceled this morning. He had some things come up. But this first episode, episode number 6, is with my friend Ramona Locken. I'll put her contact information in the show notes. That way you can follow her on Facebook. Maybe if you want to contact her, bring her in, let her speak, do some things like that. Feel free to do so. I'm sure she would love it. She's got an amazing story. We get into some of that. Part of that story is the fact that she was actually almost lost everything. And financially, her marriage, everything. It was just destroyed there for a little bit. But she's back, and back with a vengeance she is. She's now a managing broker of a real estate agency. I think it's called Realty One. She's also a trainer and a teacher. She's a certified coach. We talk a little bit about that. The funny thing about her being a certified coach is she started out being a dating coach. And we get a little bit of dating advice going on. Some of my rules and some of her questions about that actually turns into just a great, fun conversation. Really enjoyed it. Ramona, I know you're listening to this. Thank you so much. Have that towards you, and
Okay.
then just talk and see how close you want to be.
Okay. So the question is, can I hear myself? Is it supposed to sound like muffled? Like,
No, let me see something. Let me see. Headphones. Testing 1, 2. Is that
there.
better?
Yeah, you're a little loud.
A
But
little loud. So where's it comfortable at?
Okay. So keep talking.
I'm just going to keep talking, and you just tell me what's comfortable.
Right. That's good.
Okay.
Just
So now
barely
pull
turn it.
yours closer and see how, and you can just adjust that any way you want. The little thing right there will turn it.
This
Yeah.
right here. Okay.
Yeah. You can you just loosen it, then pull it towards you.
So. Okay. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So how's that? How do I sound to you?
Well, how do you sound to you? Are you too loud?
Let's see. Let me talk a little bit.
So this will give you a graph of where my voice is because I'm closer and where your voice is.
Okay. So you're on the top, or no? That's me. Right there. Okay. So mine seems pretty quiet on there.
Right. So if you pull it up, just adjust this up a little bit, and you want to talk to the side of the mic. Right there.
Okay, like this?
Right. Isn't that much better?
That is better.
That
yeah.
is better. It is better.
Okay.
So-
There's no nerves going on over here, that's for sure.
Trust me, I'm probably more nervous than you. I'm going to silence this phone. It's funny when you say the phones don't work in here, and then they work.
You're right. It's always a surprise what's going on here.
It's always a
I
surprise.
do.
So where was
Um,
I? It's September the 11th. You were on the 205 bridge taking your kids to school. Like I said, I was in Battleground. We were living at the Cedars Golf Club and the duplexes there. I don't want you to think by any means I was making enough money to own a home at the Cedars Golf Club in 2001, which would have been nice.
Nothing wrong with that.
It's a beautiful golf course.
Yeah.
It's one of my
Yeah.
favorite. So we're in the duplex. I wake up. Son is not in school yet. Of course, sitting in his tidy whities or whatever, and we're watching TV and watching all this take place. I literally went and got my kids up. I went and got them up. You've got to watch this.
So it was important for you to have them watch history happen.
Right. I mean, how many times do you see the Hindenburg crash? You don't. How many
Right,
times
yeah.
do you get to see that? And it's not that that's a great thing. I guess I knew what was coming, and I wanted my kids to be able to say, no, I was sitting there. I remember seeing this. Now, how vivid my son's memory is, I don't know. I'm like I said, he's 4, maybe, but my daughter is around 8. And shortly after that, we're all talking about going to war. Everybody's talking about going to war.
Mhm.
And my son asked me one day, he says, "Daddy, why do we go to war?" I said, "Because sometimes bad people need killed."
Ooh.
And he goes, "Oh, okay," and goes on to his thing.
Well, so that's kind of cool. You didn't go into any kind of philosophical explanation,
He's
or you
4.
didn't. Right? Yeah. You just said it like it was. Like,
Right.
yeah. You didn't give any. Like you didn't make any exceptions or give excuses or anything. You just. This is it.
No, I learned a long time ago. How old are your kids?
Oh gosh. Well, my oldest is 29 and my youngest is 11.
Okay. Well, my you weren't thinking, were you? That's a whole other discussion. So,
I was thinking, but not.
I wasn't thinking about that. I was seeing a doctor about a year or so ago, and it was the VA, and he's asking me these questions and said something about kids, and he's got a 22-year-old and a 2-year-old. I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. You're advising me medically? He said, well, the 2-year-old's adopted. I said, okay, well, you're not my therapist, so I'll go with that then. You can. I don't know what he was thinking. No, I
Yeah.
learned a long time ago with kids, and tell me if you agree. When a kid asks you a question, you answer to the point of uh-huh.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I heard once a long time ago that when a kid asks you a question, it's that whole be sincere, be succinct, and sit down. So just
Mm-hmm.
answer their question sincerely and succinctly, and stop talking. And then they'll come back later and maybe ask another question. But if you go on and on and on and talk about things, they're gonna spin out. They're gonna be like, I don't know what you're talking about right now, or it's gonna lead in some other questions they weren't wondering.
Or that you don't want to answer.
Yeah, so just,
Where does babies come from? They come from your mom. Oh.
oh, okay.
Well, she brought me dinner. She brought dad a
Yeah.
baby. So.
Okay, mom. Yeah. And then that's it. Then later on they'll be like, I wonder what dad meant that mom. Like, what do they mean they come from mom? And then they'll come back and ask another question. You just answer that one question.
Right. And as soon as they say, uh-huh, I'm done. Because
Yeah.
that's a kid's way of saying, okay, I got my answer. Where's the Play-Doh? I'm hungry.
Yeah.
So that's what I did with my son. Another thing, we were up there one day, and I grew up in Southeast Tennessee, so a lot of the assumptions that people have about me may be true. I didn't want that to be all tangled up. We're out there one day playing, and all these people that live in that neighborhood, their kids are in the same yard as ours, and they're playing, and this one little boy, my son's got their guns. And they're bang, 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 bang. And that one mother stopped the son, and he's like, I told you you can't point that at anybody. And just reflexively, I just look over, I said, well, how's he supposed to shoot anybody if he's not pointing his gun at him? The wife at that time just come over here and took me away from him. You can't talk like that to these people. I'm like, it's a toy gun. But
Yeah, yeah. But where do you cross the line?
with a real gun.
Yeah. Don't point the real gun.
That's right.
So yeah, yeah. This I reminds me two things on what to say to children when they ask questions. Remember years ago? Oh my gosh, like 15, 16 years ago, maybe longer. But Heinz ketchup and some spice had, they had like spicy Heinz ketchup.
Mhm.
It might have been a different ketchup company, but so the whole premise of their commercial was, it was like kind of romantic movie, like Boom Shaka Wow Wow.
Uh-huh.
Ketchup got together with the spice and made the spicy ketchup. And the song, so my friend had 2 young girls, and we were in the car, and that commercial came on the radio, and the girl, who's like 8 or 9, asked her, Mom, what does that mean? Like hook up or something like that. She goes, Mom, what does that mean? And she goes, oh, she got nervous. And she started going into this really long explanation about things. Well, the daughter just wanted to know what does hookup mean? And all she had to do was
How they get
answer
together.
like, yeah, oh, they like real succinctly could have answered that.
I know.
But
I said the word brothel. I was with this woman I was dating last year in Tennessee, and we're on this road trip, and I said something about the word brothel. Well, her grandson, who's 9 years old, was in the back seat. And he looks at me and goes, what's a brothel? Well, immediately both his mother and his grandmother both turned around. No, Scott, no.
Don't let him be the one that explains this. Yeah.
And I looked over at him and said, it's a really fun hotel.
There you go.
He goes,
There you go. Right. I think, yeah.
Just let it go.
Yeah. Well, my other funny story about that is when I was between third and fourth grade, my mother was single and she had remarried. She got married to this really nice man, and so sometime during I think the end of my fourth grade year, that's when the news all over the news was about the first test tube baby.
Oh.
And so in fourth grade at school, and my mother always answered my questions, and so I knew a little bit about the birds and the bees, but I could not wrap my head around what a test tube baby was. And, does it grow in a test tube?
Right.
What? I couldn't get it. So I went and I asked my mom, 'cause I could ask her anything. I said, Mom, what's a test tube baby? And she saw this as a moment where my stepdad and I could bond. And she's like, why don't you go ask your dad? He'd like this. I was like, okay. So I went out to him and I said, hey, Dad, Mom wanted me to ask you, what's a test tube baby? And his eyes got big and he took a deep breath and he goes, well, come with me. So he goes and he gets this encyclopedia. He had the big encyclopedia set. This was
remember
like in
those?
the 70s. Yeah, remember those?
Right.
Yeah, everybody had them, and that was, proud if you had a big set. And so he went and he got out the encyclopedia and he opened it up to the woman's anatomy and he's showing me everything, and he opened it up to the men's anatomy and he showed me all that, and he explained how things were done. I mean, this man went into detail.
And you're how old?
I'm I was at the end of fourth grade.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, which we had already had sex ed class in school, and I already knew a few things, and I had brothers, so nothing was shocking he was telling me.
Right.
And so at the end of it, he closed the book and he goes, and that's how babies are made. And I knew it for what it was. Like he's like taking a lot of pride, and I said, okay, that's good, thank you. How are test tube babies made?
That's right. You didn't answer my question.
And he got frustrated. He shut the book and he goes, go ask your mom.
No, how are you with your kids? Did you want your kids to ask you or tell you everything or anything?
Oh, I wanted them to be open with me. I wanted to know, their kids are going to have their autonomy and they're going to want their secrets. And, that's kind of, I think, part of us as humans, as nature. We kind of want our, information to be held tight sometimes. So I knew that, but I wanted them to be able to have the ability to come to me and talk to me about anything. And I would always tell them, listen, it's, no matter what you see, do, say, experience, I have probably seen it, done it, experienced it, know somebody who has. Like, nothing's going to shock me. Mm-hmm. So, and as long as you're coming in honesty and transparency, things are going to be good. But if you don't tell me something and you go off and and you cause trouble, that's going to be a really hard thing. That's going to be hard for, because trust then breaks down. And so they didn't always come out and, always tell me, like my older ones. There was, he went to Evergreen High School. He graduated in 2007.
Okay.
And while he was in high school, I was having other parents complain and talk to me about the drug issue that was there. And my son never said anything about it. And they were saying their kids were coming home like, oh, the drugs are so bad there. So I asked him one day, I said, hey, his name's Jesse. I said, Jesse, is there a drug problem at the school? And he's like, yeah. Oh, yeah. I was like, well, what do you do about it? And he's like, well, when they come to me and say anything, I just tell them, no, I don't do that. And I said, and they leave you alone? And he's like, oh, yeah. He goes, they leave you alone. They're not like that. I was like, okay, well, and then I had to ask, like, have you tried anything? And he's like, well, Mom, he goes, I'm in high school, of course. But he goes, it's dumb. He goes, I don't do it. So I thought that was a really cool moment. Like, I could tell he was being really honest with me. So even though he didn't come right to me and say anything, it was a much longer conversation than that at that time. But
right.
Yeah, he felt trust enough to me to share information, and I trusted him enough that I was getting the truth from him.
Well, I that's cool, and I always wanted to be that with my kids too. But there were certain things that I just didn't want to know about.
Yeah, so you never asked?
I don't want to know. Don't
ask, don't tell.
Don't ask, don't tell. Dad, I'm fine being the dad in oblivion, right?
Ignorance is bliss.
Right. Well, one day she's taking the boy to get his first sports physical. And so she calls me, did you tell him what they're going to do to him? No. She said, well, don't you think he needs to know? I said, no. He can be like every other man. Go in there, get surprised, walk out and suppress his feelings. He'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Generations of men have done this. He'll be fine. She gets there, drops him off. He goes back. She calls me. Well, I told him. I said, well, now he's going in there not only stressing, thinking this old man's going to reach and touch me there. My mom knows about it. And then instead of being able to walk out and suppress and act like nothing happened, I got to walk out and see my mom looking at me knowing that this old guy just reached and touched me there.
And what was your son's perception of it? How did he?
Well, he's just like, well, he's like every other young boy. Okay. I mean, it happened. I want to play football. All right. You do things.
Yeah. I can see that. Like, they're going to find it out. They're going to know. But they talk amongst themselves.
They talk amongst themselves, right? But I didn't. My big thing was now he knows you know.
Right.
And you've brought a whole new stress level to him. And now, so when he walks out, don't ask him about it. Just go and get ice cream. He'll be fine.
Yeah. See, I think that's the difference between, and I hate to gender stereotype, but
Right.
it's because there's personalities and stuff too. But I think that's the difference between how men are wired and boys, and how girls are wired.
And mothers.
Yes. Yeah, we want to talk about it. We want to prepare. We want to strategize. We
And
want to,
nurture when they come out.
Yeah. And I've seen that. I mean, I've had boys. I have one daughter, but I definitely see the difference from an early age of the differences with that. My boys would come home from school, and how was school? Fine.
Yeah.
Did you learn anything today? Oh, yeah.
Oh, I asked my son that one time. He said, "It's public school, Dad," and then just walked off.
Yeah. Yeah, but my nieces or, my friends' daughters would come home, and you wouldn't even have to ask them a question of how was school. You knew every single detail. You knew what Sally said. You knew what she ate. You knew what she was wearing. You knew everything.
Exactly. You knew everything. Well, with my daughter got into roller derby, and of course, a lot of the roller derby girls, some of them are in the medical field. And my daughter she'd asked me how Kaylee was. Actually, this was before Kaylee got into roller derby, but she was asking me about it. And she said, well, have you talked to her about, like, she got a gynecologist? Well, I don't know. She said, well, what about, like, is there certain tests? And she started going into, I said, Dolly, I don't know.
I don't want to know.
She said, well, you should talk to her about these things. No, I should not. I should be the dad that makes dumb dad jokes and does embarrassing things from time to time and is there when she needs me. She's got a mother. She's got 2 grandmothers. She's got several women around her to talk to her about those things. It is not my responsibility. I don't want to know.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing. You bring up a point that the thought of it takes a village.
Right.
That's probably why it takes a village, is because everybody's got their little role and the thing that they do. And
it definitely
doesn't have
does.
to
And
be.
I've got my role that I'm not going to do, right? Things I don't want to talk about with my kids. So that's why I was wondering how you approached it. Again, I think many times it's a gender stereotype. I mean, how many times you see the stereotypical dad on TV who's oblivious to what's going on? Mm-hmm. And as much as I don't like a lot of those stereotypes, I know they're absolutely true. I mean, we have stereotypes for a reason.
Yeah. I had a college professor that used to tell me that, and so there, there's communication that's typically the stereotype for the mother or the woman's role is to be more communicative with their children and talk through things. But the dad's role is more like playful and wrestling and joking and doing the stupid dad jokes and stuff like that. But both are needed.
Both are needed, and I do think that can happen because when you bring this up, especially in the culture that I live in now, they'll say, well, that's why we need a man and woman. Well, being around same-sex couples, I typically see that role play out there as well.
Absolutely. It's a gender identity, maybe, I don't know. I mean, and I don't want to overstep or say things wrong either,
but you typically see one that takes that role.
There's personality roles, too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, I like that.
Yeah, so there are ones that take that role. That's interesting.
It is, and so I never do it, but so we met. We were talking about that earlier. We met years ago. You were in real estate. I don't know who you were with at the time. I was with Stuart Title.
I was with Remax for a long time.
Which one?
Over on Tech Center Drive with Kent Walsh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to go to that office a lot. Because we were at the glass buildings, Mill Plain 1.
Yeah, yeah.
That's where
Over
we
off
were.
at Park.
Park Plaza.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where our office was. And I got into that. And that's people always ask me, how'd you get in title and escrow? Because it's primarily a female business. I had moved to Yakima and was working at a factory making fishing lures for Yakima bait and Warden lures. I was making that, and we were having dinner with some friends one night, and the girl was telling me about she got this job and she was making more money than me, and she went through this temp agency. Well, she didn't say I'm making more money than you. She told me how much money she was making, and I did my own math, and I was like. And we left dinner, and I looked at the wife. I said, I'm going to that temp agency. I know I'm smarter than her. I can get a better job than what I'm getting. And so I go and contact the temp agency, and they want me to do a 10-key test. And so I went and bought a 10-key and taught myself 10-key. I knew how to type and do all the other stuff, so I wasn't worried about it. They placed me in a title company, answering phones,
And the rest is history.
the rest was history until 2008 when it became big history.
Oh, yeah,
So,
yeah.
we had 6 or 7 offices in the area, and then they just had to start shutting offices down based on leases. And then by the
Yeah.
time it recovered, I'd been so far out and moved on to other things in my life. But it was a good business. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah. It was fun. And it was a fun time, too. It was, I feel really blessed. I came into real estate in 2001 and fortunately joined RE/MAX at the time. And I was licensed in Oregon and Washington and still am. But I had John Van Loo on the Oregon side and Kent Walsh on the Washington
I know
side.
Kent.
Yeah, and they're two amazing men. Kent still, I think he's writing books and children's books and stuff. Yeah, but John Van Loo passed away a few years ago, and that was sad because he was an amazing man.
So you wrote a book.
I am.
Or
yeah,
you are writing a book.
I'm about 3/4 of the way done. But yeah.
What started that?
Well, it's interesting. It's something that's, I mean, I don't have this grand aspirations of it's going to be this major bestseller or anything like that. There's just, I think, events in my life, and we all have a story, right? We all have a story. And just in talking with different people and, sharing my story, people was like, oh my goodness, you should write a book. And I was like, oh, no, it's like you kind of poo-poo ideas and stuff. Well, I had somebody who I was recently getting to know, and she turned to me one day and she's like, you need to write a book. And just out of the blue, she's like, you need to write a book. And she said it in such a way where I thought, like, wow, that was completely out of nowhere, and it was almost like prophecy being said over me or something. And then within a couple days, Corrine Mills had started this write a book in a month project, and she had wrote this really nice, it's called The Sixth Sense, this small book that she had wrote in a month, and so I signed up for that, and it was supposed to be like a nice, quick little writing
Short
of a
story
book.
or whatever, yeah.
Turned into a little bit bigger of a book. So I have the ending that I need to put in and some editing of it, and then figure out what it means for publishing and putting it out there.
Oh, that was my next question. I mean, are you looking at self-publishing? You're going to, or maybe, if so, maybe...
Yeah, probably a self-publishing. I've been doing some research on that, and and it's not because I'm worried about money or I mean like people, they do self-publishing because they want to keep more of their monies as opposed to putting it out on Amazon. It's or anything. There's a few different avenues to take it. Like I said, I had no grand aspirations of having this be a national bestseller or anything down that path. But yet it's been kind of surprising that a few different people who I've had read it so far, the feedback that I'm getting, and
Right.
so I'll be curious to see where it goes when it's done and ready for that. And I think the avenue that it gets put out, it'll present itself as I get closer to it being completed.
So I don't do a lot of writing as far as long-form essay. But when I do write, I find it very cathartic. What about you? I mean, what's writing for you?
So that's interesting, cathartic. So what do you mean by that?
Healing?
Okay, that's what my mind went to. So it's like, I would say the same thing. It's somewhat inspirational at the same time, because
Correct.
you have healing with the hope that it's getting better. There's
That it's growing.
yes, yeah, yeah.
Right.
And I think each of us, we have a story, and that was, I've heard other authors and other people say that, and going through this class that Karina put together, that we all have a story. Like even your story of your children, and like that's a story, and you
Right.
couple that with a few other stories and a point, and you've got maybe a little book, right, and stuff. So you think, oh, but who would want to read that, and I feel very much the same way, and yet there's these events in my life that they're just my life events, but oddly enough, people seem to have some kind of inspiration from them, and so I'm just gonna. It's cathartic. It's inspirational for myself. It helps me own my story and feel like, yeah, it's odd, but it's mine, and this
Right.
is what it is. And if it lands in somebody else's lap and they enjoy it, then I guess that's the best I can hope for.
Well, it's like this podcast, right? When I sit down and talk to, or when I ask people, will you be on the podcast? Yeah. What are we going to talk about? Nothing.
Just let it go.
Just whatever happens, we're going to talk. And it's weird how many people. I mean, I don't have millions of followers, but just to the podcast I've done, like I did one with this, and I do no promotion except on my own website, or my website I don't really promote a lot. Most of my promotion is via Facebook. I put it on Facebook, and if you're a friend of mine on Facebook, you see it, you may follow it and go listen to it. So the number one that I got right now is I met this lady who's a Arc Druid. I have a Facebook page in Athens, and she's like, hey, can I promote my pagan group on your page? Because she'd asked a few of the other pages in Athens, Tennessee, and they're like, no, go away. And I'm like, sure, why not? I want to see what this is about. So she put it on there, and she starts putting together this dinner event for all these people who identify as pagan, and she invites me to it. Well, I'm not doing anything for dinner that night. Let's go see.
Yeah.
So I go down and I meet these people, and I'm not pagan, but I go down and meet these people, and I meet her, and she starts talking about ley lines and vortexes and all these druid wisdom things. So shortly after that, I thought, I want to talk to her more. I want to learn more about this. Not that I'm interested and I want to become one. It's just I'm interested and I want to know more about it. I am more of a
it's
seeker.
this whole other world that's out there that you had no clue about probably before.
Right, and I got a lot of misconceptions about. I mean, when you say pagan, I'm thinking about these guys in goat skin pants dancing around some ruin, right? Remember that movie, Dragnet? That's what I'm thinking about. I'm actually on a date one night, and this girl in Knoxville, Tennessee, it's our first date, and she starts asking me stuff about, my background as far as faith, and I'm trying to avoid it and change the subject because I don't want to talk about this. And finally she goes, are you a pagan? I'm not a pagan. Because that's the first thing that came to my mind was Dan Aykroyd and Tom Hanks in that movie. She was a pagan. So
Oh no. Did you have a second date?
No. No second date. She ended up blocking me.
Yeah.
So. But my point being, I just sat down and talked to her and had a conversation like this, and it blew me away. I mean, I think last time I looked, I had like 50 downloads, which isn't a lot in podcast world, but for it being your third podcast, doing no marketing, and just the amount of people that I didn't know who had listened to it that came up to me in town, that was such a fascinating conversation.
Yeah, it's a curiosity. I wonder how many pagans listen.
Well, but that's what I'm thinking about when you said that about your story. Who wants to read this story? You'd be surprised how many people want to read that story because your story is their story.
Right, yeah. There's threads of similarity that you can see and find.
Right. I mean, when I went through my divorce, it was one of the hardest things I ever went through in my life. It literally about destroyed me. I never had thoughts of hurting myself or anything like that, but it literally about destroyed me. And I'm sure there's plenty of people around me at the time who thought that could be a possibility. Lost pretty much anything that I identified with. Financially, I was destroyed. All that. It literally just about destroyed me. And the whole time you're going through that, you think you're the only one.
Yeah, it's the isolation of it, and that's it feeds into that. Like I'm the only one, and so you isolate because nobody else could understand, and so then that builds.
Then you
upon
isolate
itself.
more.
Yeah, yeah.
Now you're proving your point. And
Yeah, the pity party for one is a fun game.
it's a horrible trap to get into.
Yeah.
And then I started reading a lot, and I started finding out, okay, I'm not the only one that's going through tragedies. I'm not the.
But you had to fight some identity with that too, because I mean, there's some like
You
I'm
wanna
the
be.
only one. You feel like you're special and unique because nobody else could possibly have this, like what I'm going through.
Right.
And then when you find out other people do, it's like, oh, okay, you're not that unique or special in that realm.
My ex-wife wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
She's not that horrible.
Right, yeah, yeah. And then there's that. It's like when you start hearing other people's stories, it's like, what is that? There's that old saying is, if everybody were to throw their problems on the street, you'd fight for your own back because
Exactly.
like, you see what other people go through, and you're like, oh, yeah, I'm not so bad.
Yeah, I'll take that back.
Yeah.
Exactly. We recently lost my dad.
I'm sorry.
Well, thank you. It was August 5th, and it was a sudden death, just all of a sudden. And of course, everybody's like, "Oh my God!" Well, and he was in his sleep. Well, if you're going to go, I mean, that's a good way to go. And I said, and I remember looking at somebody. Well, I did this with multiple people. I said, "You always want what you didn't get." The people that had the long, drawn out death process where you got to say your goodbyes, but it was painful to see them go. You want the quick, let them go in their sleep process.
So you would have wanted to say goodbye?
I don't know. I just know that the people who get the really quick one is like, well, I didn't have time to say goodbye. And, you always want what you don't get.
Yeah.
And that's where I came to. Instead of going down that road of wanting, I went down, this is reality. I got what I got. And I always want what I didn't get, so there's no point in doing that. Let's focus on this and go through that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like the grass is greener on the other side, or something. It's whatever. It's and it's trying to find the blessing and the I don't know, the positive side of things. And so here's kind of a recent realization I've had that I haven't shared with anybody else. So
just me and you. Don't worry about it.
This is you keep this secret right
That's
here.
right.
And it's one of those things, I don't know how to say this without it sounding kind of somewhat horrible. I mean, in my head, because I've only said this in my head, it sounds a little bad. But so I lost my mother when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
I was 13. So, and I've missed out on a lot with her, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now that I'm older and I have friends who are losing their parents suddenly or have the long drawn out sicknesses, especially those long drawn out sicknesses where they're watching their parents deteriorate in front of them, and they're not the same person that they used to be, and the vibrant person that they knew as a child is now this, the caretaker role is reversed, right? And I mean, that's tough. And I look at them and I think, I'll take mine. I mean, it was sad not having my mom, but that would be really, really super hard to go through what I watch my friends going through right now.
Right.
I don't know how people do it.
It was sudden. And I think the hard part for me is I'm watching Mom. They were married 49 years or something.
Yeah. See, and it sounds horrible that I'm happy that my mother passed away when I was younger. That sounds really selfish and stuff. But yeah, kudos to you and everybody else who's going through that with their parents, because that's a lot.
Right. It's a different thing. So the book itself, you've got stories. You got a story. I mean, what was the basis of it? I mean, I tell you what I found interesting, and you made this public, so I'll just ask you about it. It seemed to point that you lost almost everything, and then I watched you over Facebook, and kudos to you. It wasn't this pity party on Facebook. It wasn't.
I had one day. Well, I mean, there was probably more than a couple days, but there was this one particular post that was like total.
Right. But I also know that we put a false image up on Facebook, especially those of us who have a public face on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. And
you, being in real estate, you can't go up there and put what a lot of people put on there. I mean, a lot of people put stuff on there. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
And which is why there's a lot of women I haven't asked out. You know, I go
Check
and
out
read
their
their
Facebook.
Facebook, and I read those posts, and I thought, I don't want to read this post. What makes you think I want to sit in a car and listen to this? You know, when you're not being guarded, what if you're? No.
Yeah, right. This is edited and
Right. No. I don't want the drama you got on Facebook. I don't want your drama in real life. You, when you were going through, and I don't know all the details, but I know you went through a very difficult time. And although you may have had a couple of moments, you had a very good persona up front. Now, was that because you were, no, you were in real estate at the time. So, do you want to walk through that?
yeah.
Because I'm guessing the book has something to do with.
Yeah, well, my book is about change. So the title, because I did the kind of a survey online about what to call the book. So the book
Yeah, I
title
commented.
is yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was I always love your comments because they're funny and they're spot on usually. So yeah, it was the book's title is Was That My Exit? Because when you know you need to make a change and you don't, and now you're kind of stuck on this road and you panic and that pit in your stomach, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And so that's the name of my book. Was That My Exit? Because there's usually in relationship, or it could be a job, or situations where you kind of know you need to make a change. And I'm a believer that if you know you need to make a change and you don't, the universe is going to show up and bitch slap you into that change, and it's not going to be
You're
fun.
making the change.
Yeah, you're going to make that change, but by now you either have like a heart disease, or you have a really horrible relationship or job. You got fired from your job or something, right? So, looking, I mean the big change that I had, besides when I was younger, parents died. That was what it was. But being in a marriage where I should have probably chose to leave that marriage long before I was forced to. But
Well, before
I
got bitch slapped.
Yeah, I totally got bitch slapped. But especially in a relationship, there's you're always hoping for the best, and is this just a phase? Is this, oh, he'll change, we'll get counseling, we'll this, or
Yeah,
you're
never
always
do
trying to
couples
fix.
counseling.
Yeah.
Never do couples counseling.
Well, I have some thoughts on that too, because they will use that stuff against you later.
It will be used against you. Never. I
It's-
totally recommend individual counseling. Do
Yes.
not do couples counseling.
Yeah, it'll come up again. Yeah, and so that's funny. And so because I didn't choose to leave, and the writing was on the wall, but because I didn't choose to leave sooner, I was in a position where I completely lost everything.
Right.
And fortunately, knock on wood, my health and the health of my children, all that was intact. That was good. But the financial devastation, it's still, let's see, it's 4.5 years now, and I'm still digging out of the financial repercussions of that. And it wasn't because there was, credit card debts and things that we were trying to live this extravagant life and couldn't keep up. There was decisions he was making that through his business that impacted me because I was married to him financially.
Right.
So.
No, I totally agree, and that was a lot of what happened with mine. Is there were things going on financially I wasn't aware of, and I at one point started to leave, and because I have this staunch Southern Baptist culture, you never divorce, and didn't believe in it, and didn't want to do it. I didn't even stay a whole night away. I came back that night. Hey, let's work this out. Then a few years later, some more stuff happened, and it just snowballed. It goes back to that principle that I try to tell people: you teach people how to treat you. And when I go back and when I say, okay, we're going to work this through, well, what that's teaching them is, okay, well, I can do it again, but this next time worse. And it just kept snowballing, getting worse.
Yeah.
And because I'm still stubborn, I'm not leaving her, I'm not divorcing her. She left me and it was over. And that's when, here I'm identified as a husband. My kids are becoming adults. I'm identified as a father, but now I'm an empty nester father. So I totally get and then you get all the financial repercussions from it.
Mm-hmm.
All the I will say self-imposed social implications or self-imposed guilt associated with it that I had to deal with. Now I'm the type of person when somebody comes up and says, "What do you think about divorce?" It's a pretty good option. There are some cases where I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, so I, like you, having had a strong Christian background, and one of the things, and I still have a strong faith background. I view myself as being more spiritual now but at the time, in trying to get peace of mind, or do what's right, we had a church that we were going to, and the pastor of that church did marriage counseling, and you said don't do couples counseling. Well, it was quote unquote couples counseling, but a lot of times it was just me there because he wouldn't even show up.
Yeah.
So, but there was, my gosh, I left numerous times, and I'd be down the road in the car, and I think, this is dumb. I can work through this. We'll get this figured out, and stuff. And so one of those last times, I just almost out of instinct went to the church, and his name was Pastor Bill, was there, and I said, can I meet with you and talk real quick? And he says, yeah. And there was another lady who I knew that was there, so I'm sitting in his office, and I'm just like spilling the beans, and telling him, like, this is what's going on, and I'm expecting for him to open his Bible and start sharing scriptures of what I need to do to strengthen myself to go back. And he listened to me, and he gave me the space and a lot of tissue because I was bawling my eyes out. And he looked at me, and he very straightforwardly said, "You need to divorce him." And
cold water right in the face.
Yeah, and I just sat there. I stopped crying. I just sat there, and I looked at him, and I was like, "What'd you just say?" Like, what? That is not what I was expecting you to say. And he says, "No." He goes, I've been watching and hearing your story now for months. You need to divorce this man." And then he was very nicely in sharing thoughts and sharing some scriptures about how, yes, God does hate a divorce, but yet he doesn't want his kids to live like this. And he had a bunch of other things that he said. So that was that. That was like all it took for me to like that, and that was that. I filed for divorce, and
well, kudos for him for being that way, because I don't know if you know this. Part of my background was I was a pastor for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And I would never do marriage counseling. A couple might want to come talk to me. I said, okay, we'll meet maybe once or twice, but I'm not going to do ongoing marriage counseling with you.
Why was that?
Because I'm going to be up there in the pulpit like 2 weeks later talking about something, and you're going to think I'm talking about you.
Oh, yeah. It's hard not to have that.
Right.
Yeah.
You're going to read into this. Well, that's us he's talking about. So I wouldn't do like one-on-one counseling any long term. Like if you come and say, "Hey, I got this issue, blah blah blah." Okay, I might help you find a counselor or a therapist, but I just couldn't see that. It's kind of like the way I feel about dual agency in real estate. I couldn't see the.
So just to be neutral and
right,
not have any kind of manipulation for another party. Yeah.
That's the way I viewed it.
That's commendable. That's.
Well, I'd have never done this, sat in a closed room back then either, but we did that, but yeah, I never recommended it. And then when I went through marriage counseling, it was marriage counseling, I was like, this is stupid. I'm not doing this again. But individual therapy, I love it. Even if you're healthy, I think it helps you focus on some things, helps you. If you got something you need to think through and focus on, I think individual therapy, which brings up you're a coach also. Mm-hmm. So what kind of coach? I mean.
Yeah. So that was something I've worked really hard for many years to get the education and the credentials behind my name to be a coach. And so I started coaching. I'm a certified executive coach, and I wasn't quite sure exactly what. I just knew I almost like maybe you'll get this is it had like a calling to do this.
I do get that.
Yeah, it was.
That's why I'm doing this.
Yeah. So it's and so I started coaching. It was interesting. I started doing a lot of dating coaching.
Oh.
Because I was single and but it's interesting. So having been a real estate agent and building a business,
Dating
like
coaching. I'm
dating,
interested to know more about
the
that.
two of them kind of overlap and
I
go
think it's
together.
very much
It's like,
true when you're courting a client.
yeah, you're marketing a product,
You're marketing.
you're advertising it out there.
You're courting.
Yeah, you're
You're building
courting,
that relationship.
You're building rapport.
Right.
Yeah, you've got some qualifying questions that you're going for. It's you can go down the whole sales cycle and stuff. It's very similar and stuff. So that was I had a client out of Seattle and somebody else out of Texas area and a few other clients for different things. But the thing that was kind of coming up for me was in that field. And so I did a bunch of research and I thought, well, this will be awesome. So I was working on my logo and my the business plan piece of it, of what it looked like, and where, when, who, how, all that for it, and just started putting my vision into place and showing up. And I even had a building that I wanted to go into that I would like dream about and talk about, and so I thought, okay, this is when I earned my certification. I was like, okay, I'll do my real estate, and then I'll build this coaching practice, and and this is going to be huge. It's going to be like this, multi-million-dollar business. I mean, I had like big goals for this.
I'm Tony Robbins.
Yeah, I kind of think I'll travel the world, and I still have that thought of being able to travel with doing that. But as sometimes, like, you set your vision and you do your work and you do your action steps, and then you open yourself up for what may come. And I had this huge blessing. I feel like I feel like it came to me. It's because it wasn't something I went out and looked for, but I had the owners of the franchise for Realty One Group approach me and said, hey, we've seen your stuff on Facebook. You're a coach and a real estate agent, and that's what we're looking for in this role. And I had never heard of them. I didn't know who they were, the company. And so I did a bunch of research, and the values of the company and what I stood for lined up really, really well. So I get a coach now as I started as a managing broker. I'm now the designated broker for Realty One Group franchise here. So I have agents that I coach, and I still have a couple private clients on the side that I do. But I bring in, a lot of times when I'm coaching a client, I'll bring in the tools that I use for the dating coaching, because it's so similar.
Well, so that was my next question. Are you still doing the dating coaching, or is it more the executive? Who's your client that's outside of real estate?
Who's my clients outside of real estate is I haven't done anybody in a dating. I mean, besides friends and stuff. So I have it's usually people through some type of change in their life, whether it be phasing out of a business that they've owned for 28 years that's been successful, and what does that look like to move into the next step. So it's not like the financial piece of it, but when you're I have a woman who is going through some health issues and stuff. So you, in different phases of your life, you have a role and you talked about, like, you had to, you were the dad and, the husband, and, now you're the empty nester dad, and, all those.
Single and.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
So you have all those different roles that you play. So how do you show up for those, and what does the next step mean? And what do you want to do with your life?
Well, and I explain this to people sometimes, and I said this at my dad's funeral, because I did my dad's funeral. Life is about seasons, and if you look at going back into the creation story, and he set into motion these seasons and these rhythms and these patterns in life, and we see that in nature, but it's very true in our life. For example, in talking to my dad, I said, I'm looking out here and I see a lot of you guys who knew my dad as a elementary school kid, or you knew him as a high schooler, or you knew a Jack Bridwell that I never got to meet.
Yeah.
You saw him at different phases of his life, and oftentimes when we're going through life, we're just seeing what's right in front of us and our blinders are on, and we don't realize, okay, I'm entering into a new season.
Yeah.
This is a new season, and seasons come and go. And sometimes it's easy going into them, and sometimes it's hard coming out of them. So I like that you're being able to sit there and help negotiate people through this. One of the things because I knew that you was a coach, and one of the things I was thinking on my drive over here was I've always thought this, I like a therapy, but I wish that somebody would combine the two. You know, like and not just a business coach, but a performance coach aspect. And you know, I'm here. I'm trained in the psychology and to help you question and find, because the answer is within you.
Exactly. I was going to ask you, do you know the difference between the two? So,
Go ahead.
Yeah, do you know the difference between the two?
The two, I've never experienced a life coach or a business coach. I've experienced coaches, and so that's my only basis. So my wrestling coach is that person that's there to give me the tools and encourage me and show me the path to move forward.
Yes, yeah, very much, yeah.
The therapy, what the therapy did for me was they're very rabbinic in the way they talk to you. They ask you a lot of questions. And the questions are self-revealing questions. Because like I said, what you're finding out is, okay, I've got the answer within me. To me, if I combine the two, that person is saying, okay, you're finding this that's within you, and now I'm going to show you how to take this what's already within you and go forward.
Right, yeah.
So what was your answer?
And yeah, very, very much so. So there, and another person that gets confused is a consultant. So a lot of agents that I meet with, they talk about getting a coach, and really is what they've hired as a consultant who can tell them, you know, oh, this is the steps you need to do that.
Make X amount of phone calls.
So one of the examples I've heard, interestingly enough, is writing a book. So if you hire a consultant, I want to write a book, the consultant will say, that's awesome. Here's a publisher that you need to talk to. What's the subject of your book? Okay, well, here's how you need to format it. Here's the formula. So when do you want this released by? You know, so they'll ask you a few questions, but then they're going to tell you step by step what to do.
They're a wedding planner.
Kind of a wedding planner, yeah.
Right.
They'll take your vision and direct you and use their resources to get you moving in the right direction. And so, you know, that's cool. A therapist, you know, if I want to write a book, is like, well, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, well, what's caused this desire?
Yeah. So, you know, what was it in your past? You know, have you ever read a book before?
Right.
Yeah. When was a time in your life that you wrote a book and you felt good about that? And let's talk about, you know, did your parents write a book to you? And how did you feel about it?
Right. Did you read a lot growing up?
Yeah. How were books, you know, in your, you know, so that's, you know, therapy is going to like dig deep into those old past things to kind of use some tools and some habits maybe that you've had in the past that to infuse you to move forward. You know, where a coach is, like you said, they ask a lot of questions. Well, what's your book about? What time can you commit to writing your book? How many pages can you do per day? When do you want this? So they're going to ask you, because you do know all the answers inside. You already know what you need to do. So that a coach just asks the right questions in order to get you moving forward. And then also has some tools, like, you know, the coach, well, here's some tools that will help you. You know, here's an exercise, or here's some things that I know of. And some coaches will kind of take more of a consultant role. That's what I heard you say, is like, okay, well, here's then some next steps that maybe you might want to consider with that.
Right, or here's some tools, some workouts. Yeah,
but a true coach in the essence asks the right questions so that you can get to the right answers that you already have.
Right, and my yoga teacher and I were talking about this the other day. And I said, if anything I've learned, well, it's not that I've learned it, it's just became more, it's been brought back up to the surface, going through this death with my dad. What's been brought back up to the surface with me is no one's coming to save you. You are on your own. Yeah. And you have everything within you to get through this. Take your time and grieve, that's okay. Take your time and mourn, that's okay. You have everything within you to get through this. And
that's a big realization.
It's, on one hand, it kind of sucks. No one's coming to save me. But on the other hand, it's kind of freeing. I don't need anyone to save me. I've got everything within me to do this. Now, if you're coming from a strict, you know, if you go back to the spiritual side, we always say, greater is he that is within me than he that is within the world. I've got everything within me. He's implanted himself there, so I've got this strength. Um, and I've been thinking a lot about that. So part of what I want to do with the podcast is not, I hate to use the word sermons, but it's basically what it is. Just do smaller ones like that every now and again, and I'll talk about things like that. Hey, you can do this actually. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah, the whole "you're enough."
Right.
You are enough, like inside. And that's what I think we all want to get to. It's like, you need somebody to save you because you're thinking you don't have enough in you to do it yourself, or you don't have the answers, or you don't have the direction. You're going to make a mistake. It's very much fear based.
It is very much fear based, and one of the things that I wrote to my kids, I started writing my kids handwritten letters.
They will treasure those someday.
I think they throw them away. I don't know.
You'd be surprised.
I do scan each of the letters I write. So if I ever wrote you like a card or a handwritten letter, I scan it and throw it into my Evernote.
Oh.
So I do have a copy. Well, not every one, but I do have a copy of most of the letters that I wrote my kids. But one of the things I wrote my kids in there is learn the art of being alone. Because at some point in your life, probably multiple points, you're going to be alone. And that could be because your spouse is on a trip. That could be because you're on a trip. It could be because you got divorced. It could be because somebody got hit by a bus. It could be because you're at a concert with a person you love and your mind's a million miles away. You're alone. You got to learn the art of learning how to be alone.
It's really precious time. There's a movie, and I cannot remember the name of this movie. It was some dumb rom-com that I watched late one night, and it was kind of cute and stuff. But the last little bit of the movie was this girl, and she ended up, not getting the guy. She was alone.
Right.
And it showed her, one of her dreams is she wanted to go hiking. So somebody's probably going to hear this and know what movie it was. But she wanted to go hiking. She ends up out doing the hike in another country or something. And it was the Grand Canyon. She wanted to hike the Grand Canyon and see the sun. That's what.
That's not in another country.
Yeah, that's not here. Yes, it is here. I've been on it. So anyway, so this shows her on the Grand Canyon, and she said that she realized that being alone is a really precious time because we often don't get that.
We don't.
So she really came to grips with that, and I watched this movie, and it's like a year and a half, being single and being alone, and watching this movie alone, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is the most, I don't know, it just really stuck with me that this is, so I tell people that now too, is how can you capture this time and really see it for the beauty that it is, that don't be afraid of being alone, because it's precious time. It's
precious time, and for me, being bitch slapped into being alone, you're having to, for me, I'm having to refine my identity, and men find their identity very much in what they do. Mm-hmm. Well, now I'm not what I did. I'm having to find that. I was also, and I've been public about this, I was drinking way too much because I'm alone. I'm bored. My mind's going 1,000 miles an hour. I'm going through all this grief. I need to numb this pain. And what I found out was you're not numbing that pain. You're feeding it with your with the alcohol or with whatever you're choosing to numb your pain with. You're really feeding it. Took a long time to figure that out. And then you start figuring that out, and you start figuring, okay, moving to Tennessee, I was telling a guy today, has been very monastic for me because I'm not around the people I've been around for 17, 18 years. I'm around people I hadn't seen in 20 years or so. I live out on the farm. We have satellite internet, which isn't the greatest. And, a bunch of cows. And so you're out there, and you learn to be alone. Mm. And I don't have all the friends I had. And it was a thought I'd already been going through for 2 or 3 years prior to moving down there, but was able to implement it a little bit better. There was a YouTube video shortly after I started getting divorced. It's something about learning to be alone. It's a poem. It's a beautiful poem, and the lady performs it, and it's just beautiful. And she talks about learning to go eat by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And see, and I got friends of mine who will order food to go from the restaurant they like because they don't want to eat by themselves. I'm thinking about it and look over at me and think, oh, it's so sad. They're looking at their phone. They're not
Right.
looking at
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And there's something freeing about going into a restaurant. I'll take a table for one, and I've got this private service.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the stories we create around things.
We believe our own lies.
Yeah. Yeah. And nobody else cares. Nobody else is sitting whispering about you. Have you ever heard the song Negroni Eyes?
I'm horrible at. Go ahead and sing it.
Maybe, well, yeah, I'm not gonna. You do not want me singing. You do not want me
Go
singing.
ahead,
But there's a
belt it
line.
out. We'll
There's
go
a
do karaoke and you can sing it.
There's a line. It's a the artist. She sings. It's called Negroni Eyes, and there's a line in there that says, "I tried to drown my sorrows, but the damn things learned how to swim."
Right. Right. That's
don't go
exactly
away.
that.
Yeah.
I think that was actually the line I was looking for when I said that you're trying to numb it or quiet or whatever I said about numbing my pain, and they you end up just feeding it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of
Right.
truth to that.
Yeah. It's Yeah. It's we create our own stories around things, and that's part of the thing with coaching is getting those stories out, or getting the gremlins, the things that we tell ourselves, that little voice in our ear, everybody's going to be looking at you, everybody's going to think you're like, they know that you're just a loser eating by yourself, or whatever it is that it's telling us. And if we can just quiet those voices and do what we're most afraid of.
So how do you quiet them?
How do
I mean, there's got to be something you're doing. I mean,
how do I quiet
you've
them?
come back from a very devastating thing in life. You're a designated broker, a coach, so you've obviously learned how to quiet them, or you're just really, really highly disciplined person that just ignores them.
It's probably a little bit of both. This, how do I quiet them? I just know, to say like know what I want, but I know how I want to be, and that to get past where I've been, I have to do something different. And so it's like I'll take a deep breath and kind of meditate down, and just when I hear I talk with my hands, so I hit.
No, feel free.
When I hear like the voices come up, like, oh, they're not going to like you, they're going to think you're so dumb, oh, you're so boring. Like that's usually what I tell myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's like it's like I'll just say no, just you need to be quiet now. Usually those words, that voice that you hear, it's trying to protect you from something. It's trying to protect you from being hurt. And, so I just, like try to think it, quiet it down. It's going to be fine. And just try to breathe and be myself in the moment. And because there's, it's presenting itself for something. I had a huge lesson of this. One of the things, like, towards the past couple of years of my marriage, all my friends kind of disappeared a little bit.
Oh, they absolutely disappear.
Yeah, because they see it, they know something's going on, and so it's like self-protecting and stuff. And then as soon as
everything comes out.
Yeah, and they were like, oh, it's about time. Like we were trying to figure out what to do, and you don't know what happens behind closed doors or whatever.
You don't.
But anyway, so I had some great friends that showed up after that, and just just love and fun times and adventures, and trying to get me out of that funk. So fortunately that helps you, like, gosh, if your friends are saying this, then you just got to force yourself through a situation. But I got the opportunity to go to Florida to visit friends, and it was really cool. We were out on this boat out of this I think it's called the Lighthouse. It's this you boat out to it, and it's a national park, and there's a reef underneath.
Uh-huh.
And so there's no land whatsoever around, and I see people in the water, and they're telling me to jump off this perfectly safe boat into the ocean and I know I have a life vest on, but I'd never done that before, and I was so scared. I was in tears, literally in tears, just fear and
Right.
And and the voice is screaming at me, you're going to make a fool of yourself. You don't know how to swim that well. And, what if there's, all these things. I've got kids.
There's
This
sharks.
Yeah, this is the stupidest thing. And I was like white knuckling the edge of the boat, and they were like, no, it's really pretty. And it's like, yeah, I can see it's pretty.
I can see that.
I can see it looks great. And you're like, get in.
I've seen it on postcards.
And so then there was this moment where like the pain I was feeling in that moment, it was like not jumping in and being embarrassed to not, to be that person that I wasn't jumping in was going to be greater than the pain of being there. So I was just like deep breath and jumped and coughing and spitting salt water and, because I'm not used to this stuff. And so then, after I was like, okay, I'm alive. Yeah, okay, whew, I'm here. And they said, okay, now look down, because you have your
mask
on,
yeah.
right? Yeah, they're like, look down. It's like, I know, I see, it's pretty. Look down. So I put my face in the water, and oh my gosh, it was so amazing. Like,
right.
I would have missed this amazing experience had I just stayed on the boat where I felt completely safe.
Is this in the book?
It is. It is.
It should be.
Yeah. So I sometimes now, because I have those moments. I mean, I was asked to be a managing broker. I didn't have a managing broker license at the time. It's like, you want me to do, this is not on my path.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I've had to get up and talk in front of groups of people. That's scary. It's good for you. You know how to do it. It's scary stuff. Or just step into some situations where it's like, I don't know what I'm going to do or how I'm going to do this. But through the grace of God and whatever else, there's beauty on the other side. And so I will remind myself of that story of how I almost missed out on one of the most beautiful things I've seen by staying on the boat.
What was it my brother told me to read that book the other day, Get Out of the Boat?
Yeah, there's something, yeah.
It's on top of my head. I could look it up, but you know the book I'm talking about. It's basically based on Peter getting out of the boat and walking on water.
Yeah. Somebody else was just talking about this recently.
Yeah, and I have read it. It might be a good book to go back and read again, but it's been a while. But it's one of those religious, spiritual, self-help, motivational type books. So it's not that bad. But yeah, it's the same principle that you're talking about here. Because I used to tell people there's two types of fear. There's a fear that paralyzes and debilitates you. Mm-hmm. And there's a fear that gets you out of the way of the bear running at you.
Right.
Or that gets you out of the road because there's a car barreling down the street. Fear in itself isn't bad. Fear that makes you move and take action. The fear of, in your case, the fear of being the one that didn't get out of the boat.
Yeah, that would have been really embarrassing.
That caused you to take action over the fear that says, there might be a shark in there.
Yeah, I could drown.
I could drown.
Yeah, all these things. So there was, I read a lot, and I had discovered Martha Beck's books a few years ago. So she was a contributor for Oprah and O Magazine, and she's got some books, Finding Your Own North Star and some other ones. And so in, I think it was the North Star book, she talks about fear. Like if you're afraid, because I mean things we do there is fear. Like, oh, what are people going to think? And I don't know. What if I make a mistake? It could be a costly mistake. There's fear, and that's valid. But if it's fear, and then the decision feels expansive, like it's going to add to your life, then that's get over the fear and go do it. But if it's fearful and it's going to be dangerous, or that something's going to harm you, or it feels like it's closed up, and then that's not a good decision. You should move the other way from it.
But either way, move. Don't be paralyzed.
Yeah.
And that was the example that I gave a lot of people too. I mean, in the Marine Corps, we're running toward the shots. I mean, that's the job. You run toward the shots. One of the things you find out is if you panic and you just stay put, you will get killed. Because they will find where you are and they will zero in. But if you keep moving, the chances to live are much greater because you're moving. You're putting down fire, you're moving. You're putting down fire, you're moving. But if you just lay there, it's over. And you got to have that. Well, and you also got to have enough sense to say, okay, we're getting a little overwhelmed here. Let's go this way.
But either way, you're moving. And
you're moving.
Yeah. Well, and I like what you said, because not moving is a choice.
It is a choice. It is a choice, and I fear. It's a crazy thing, and like I said, it's not bad. There are good fears. I want my kid, when I was raising kids, I want them to have certain fears. I also want them to not be afraid to take those expansive choices.
Yeah, yeah.
To go out there and do that. My daughter, when she started roller derby, I didn't raise her up at a skating rink, right? And she was wanting to get back into sports. She'd been a fast pitch softball girl.
Mm.
She said, I think we'll go play softball. And I said, well, there's no fast pitch softball out there for women in your age that I know of that's not really, really expensive or whatever. So why don't you just go to roller derby practice with me? Because at the time I was announcing for the team here. And she's like, okay, I'll go. So we go to practice, and she's sitting there, and she meets a couple of girls, and she's watching them practice. She said, you can seriously get me a tryout for the team? Well, yeah, I can. But ironically enough, they have orientation coming up, so we'll get you in that. And I called a couple of girls over. They put together a set of gear that they, hey, yeah, no, you can borrow my knee pads. You can borrow this. You can borrow that. So she's all decked out, and she gets it. Can't skate. Doesn't know how to stop. She goes to orientation. One of the first things they do is they teach you how to fall. And they start teaching you how to stop. She's addicted. And she was scared because I can't skate. I don't know these girls. I'm and all this other stuff.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah.
Within 6 months, she's jumping chairs. But I want them to have that no fear in that aspect.
Right.
But
yeah.
I also want them to have a healthy fear of, the stove's hot.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's things. Yeah. There's consequences.
Right. There's consequences for bad decisions. I can't protect you from everything. So.
Yeah. There was that. There's nothing you have to do. There's nothing you ever have to say. But just remember this: fire is hot, and when it rains, things get wet.
Right. That's the way it goes. My son, one day we were cooking. I'm cooking. It was one of the stoves that had the coil.
Oh yeah.
And I'm cooking on it. I pull the pot off. I turn it off. It goes from red to black. He's standing beside me. He goes, "That's still hot. Is that still hot?" So we'll touch it and find out. No, you're setting me up for something. So I fix my food and I go wherever it was. We're out on the patio, whatever it was I was going to eat that night. And I go out and I sit down. I'm starting to eat my food, and I was in here. This, ow! He took off running. And I said, now come back. Let me show you how to find out if it's hot. Put the back of your hand and go slow, dummy. Don't just reach down and touch it. Why didn't you tell me that before?
You were that dad.
I'm that dad.
But he will never forget that lesson.
He will never forget that lesson. I'm that dad.
Well, it sounds like you're a fun dad, though.
Well,
like
I have
rollerblade
fun. Well, it's quad skates, not rollerblades.
Oh.
Have you ever been?
Yeah, I haven't. But interestingly enough, one of the ladies that was in the coaching program. So there's people from all kinds of corporations. There was an executive from Zillow that was in our this is like a year training course for coaching, and there was a gal who she was I thought she looked a lot younger than she was. She was like mid to late 30s, I think, and she was from like Ohio or something. Anyway, and she was a librarian, like,
okay.
Like her with their masters and whatnot, and she did rollerblading,
roller derby.
Roller derby. Yeah, she did roller derby.
In Vancouver or Portland?
She for where she lives, she did it there, and she's come out and practiced with our team in Portland a few times, and
that's where I started.
So,
I started the team in Portland, and then took some time off, and then after the divorce, I found out this team in Vancouver was starting up, and so I went in there and talked to them and got that gig, and so I announced their first 2 seasons.
Oh wow, you've done some interesting things.
It's been fun. It's been fun. You ought to go. They have about this Saturday. Matter of fact, the reason I'm staying this long, I flew up Friday to go to Tacoma. My cousin got married, so I went up and officiated that wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And then I decided I would stay this week, through the weekend because my daughter, Storm City has a roller derby bout, and I've never got to watch my daughter skate.
Oh, so you're going to go see.
So I'm staying for
Yeah.
that, which it's also my 30-year class reunion.
Oh, so it's a big.
Well, but my 30-year class reunion's in Tennessee.
Oh.
So I'm
So are you
missing it.
missing it to be here? Oh, I see.
I'm missing it to be here, which, you know, I caught a little flack, but I'm like, hey, I've never been to a class reunion, and of course that was their point. Well, you've never been to one, now you live here and you're not going to one, and
Yeah, so you have to wait another 5 years.
or whatever, right? 5 or 10, ever what they decide to do. And
Well,
so
do you see many of them? You probably can like see everything that's going on Facebook.
yeah, some of them I don't recognize.
Yeah. That's
Have you
the
had
truth.
that problem?
I have. I have to say that a lot of them have done pretty good, but there are a couple that like I don't remember you, but I see their picture from high school. It's like,
Well,
oh, that's you. Okay.
There's some I think, I'm glad I kissed you then. You know what I mean? I'm like, dodge that bullet.
Oh no. Yeah, well that goes both ways.
It
That's
probably
true,
does
yes.
for me as well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
There was this one girl. We grew up. When I say we grew up together in the same neighborhood, I mean from kindergarten till after high school, we all lived in the same neighborhood. I wasn't one of those families where you moved house to house. No, the home my mom and dad bought in 1975, they didn't sell until maybe the 2000s.
Nice. Yeah.
So I grew up in this house. Well, she grew up around the corner. We all played together. She was probably in the first game I played Spin the Bottle. She was there. I mean, this was, and for you guys that don't know what Spin the Bottle is, message me, I'll tell you. I've known her forever. I'm at this department store talking to a guy that I knew from high school as well, and she comes, hey, Scott, and I'm like, hey, and I start talking to her. No clue who she is. No clue. And finally she walks off, and I looked over at my buddy Steve. I said, who was that? And he told me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed because I grew up with her.
Right, yeah, but people change so much sometimes. It's
Right, well then she
Yeah.
messages me on Facebook. I get my phone goes ping. I look at it and it's her. She said, you had no clue who I was, did you? And I said, and you know, how do you answer that question?
How did you answer?
Honestly? So no, I'm embarrassed. You have me in a very awkward position right now. No, I did not recognize you, and I am so sorry.
Well, that was good. So how did she respond?
Oh, she said, that's
Is it-
okay. And then, you know, I've changed a lot, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I didn't agree with.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, my memory or you just
Right. And
and yours.
when I started
Yeah.
doing that 365 things to do around Athens, there's a video that I did there in McMinn County area. And so I got people who know me from that.
Oh,
And
yeah. So people come up and they're like, "Hi, Scott," and so you think it's just somebody from your podcast or the videos or whatever that you do.
I
and-
don't know.
Yeah.
Right. If I don't immediately recognize you, I'm just like, and it's
Yeah.
not that I'm this huge celebrity, and I'm not. It's just people who watch these videos, and then I started doing Sounds of Summer, which is a summer concert series.
Oh, fun.
So I
Yeah.
host that. So you get
Yeah.
all these people that know
So
me
you have
from
a
that.
lot of people that know you, but you don't know them,
I
and
haven't
they
got a
come
clue.
up, and you're friendly and outgoing, and gregarious. You know, it means that, but so they feel like they know you.
Right. And then they come and talk to me, and then the woman I was dating, she was like, "Oh my God." What? It was, but the flip side is everybody in town. She knows. She's one of those people who just knew everybody. She was one of the socialites. She knew everybody, and they all
She probably
knew her.
prided herself on that until.
And then we're going out, and all of a sudden, I'm the one getting attention, and I'm just like, "What?" And so,
Yeah.
But we are still great friends. Her and I
Yeah.
still usually have dinner about once or twice a week, and still hang out. So
Once or twice a week.
yeah, usually,
Yeah. So you're like still dating.
but not.
Do you talk about who you're dating with one another and
No,
no?
no, I don't. No. She did call me one night. She was at a bar, and she needed a ride home, and I was just getting off work. She didn't call me. She texted me. She says, "What are you doing?" And I drove by and saw her car there, and I thought, I'm just going. It's late. I'm going home. And I start getting these slurred texts from her. What are you doing? I was about to go home. She says, well, I'm at the VAR, VAR, blah, blah. I was, okay.
Oh, I was wondering, what is a slurred text? But it's when they typos in it.
You know what a slurred text is. Like, you've never sent a slurred text.
Me? No.
Okay, like you've never gotten slurred texts. And so I turn around and I come back to the bar, and she's in there, and our friend Lori looks at me. She goes, I'm so glad you're here, because I don't want to take her home. Okay. So we hung out. Come to find out, she'd had a date that night, and he'd already left, and so I'm picking her up after her date.
So there probably wasn't a second date with that guy.
There wasn't a second date with that guy, and I was the hey, come get me from this date.
Yeah.
Which one of the first times we went out, she had this guy that she broke up with, but just kept on and on and on, and he was in town, and she really. And so she said, I tell you what, I'm supposed to meet him down here at this time. Will you come in? And I think her and I've been on a couple of dates, and I said, yeah. So I walk in, I have my journal with me. I walk up and see her. Oh, hey, we act all surprised. I just lean over and give her a kiss on the lips. Not a big passionate, but, just a friendly kiss on the lips. And say, how you doing? And, I introduced myself to him. And I said, I'm surprised to see you here. I said, I just came in and get a drink, and I'm going to write in my journal for a little bit. And that's what I did. That date was over, too.
But that's a good test probably to have, dating, and I've friends that are dating, whatnot. But to have like the wing person or somebody to come in and check out the other person and see how they're going to react. And
yeah, well, she wanted that date to be over, and that was part of the plan. So
yeah, that's good.
Me come in and kiss her and be friendly, and then disappear and see what happens. So now here's the ironic thing. You said something about dating coach. She basically asked me out because I have this aversion to asking women out.
Why? Like, so that's a whole, like, what's your aversion to asking women out?
I don't know. Like, I'll get to talking to somebody, and I'll be like, okay, I think this might be somebody I'd like to go out with. And then I think, okay, I'm going to ask her out. Well, it's the whole rejection. You don't want to get rejected. I mean, that's it. It's that whole rejection thing. But I also have an aversion I try to be overly cautious to not come across as flirtatious or being that guy. The guy that's just being overly complimentary, overly flirtatious, overly whatever.
So you're out and about quite a bit. You do all these different events, and people know you. You don't know them, and you probably get to meet a lot of women.
Right.
So what happens when you do see somebody that you're interested in? What steps do you take?
Well, like with her, we just chatted when I saw her out in town. I didn't ask her for her phone number first. I didn't do that. I think she actually requested me on Facebook first, because we had that conversation the other day because our Facebook friendversary, whatever it was, came up. She said, I'd looked for you for 2 or 3 weeks. But I was always misspelling your name, and finally I popped up in somebody that she knew. That's how she found me. But even then, I didn't want to friend her first because I thought she might think, "Oh God, he's hitting on me," It's the stories we tell ourselves.
It's the stories you tell. Yeah.
Right, and then finally we were texting one night, and she said, "Look, maybe you just want us to be friends," and blah blah blah. And I literally remember texting back saying, "Okay, whoa, wait a minute. I'm okay and more than happy to be more than just friends. I'd love to go out with you. I just didn't think that's what you wanted, and so I didn't want to."
Yeah, so it's interesting because you don't want to be friend zoned. That's a whole different zone. It's hard to get out of the friend zone. I have.
Oh, there's no coming back.
There's no coming back. It's I have friends who are strictly in that friend zones who would have, and they've asked you to date and stuff, and it's like, if it doesn't work out, I've lost a friend, and so I'm not willing to give you up as a friend. So you're in the friend zone.
Right.
And stuff. But it's confusing out there. So it's, right? It's I don't know, there's all these new rules and all these things, and what do you say? What do you not say? Does the guy ask the girl out? Does the girl ask the guy out? and I, it seems to me that and there's a lot of guys who just are bold, and they will pursue pretty strongly, and it's they don't take no for an answer kind of thing. But and you probably don't want to be that guy.
I don't want to be that guy.
And you'll never be that guy. You're
Right.
not that guy. So don't worry about it. Like, let that go. You're not that guy. But it is confusing.
Well, I know
out there,
I'm
all
not
these
that
new
guy, but I'm
rules.
afraid she'll see me as
Yeah.
that guy.
Don't be afraid for her.
All right.
Don't
Oh
put your
yeah,
fear on her.
why give that to her?
Yeah. I would just be you. If you
Well-
were asking a friend for a coffee, how would you go about asking for?
Hey, can we get you a coffee? Oh, I bet we'd probably be at the coffee shop. Can I get you a coffee? Well, that's another thing I don't do. So, like, if I'm at a bar and I see an attractive woman, maybe she starts talking to me because I'm probably not going to initiate the conversation. I don't offer to buy them a drink. I just don't. Now, if she's got a drink. I actually had a woman come up to me in a bar one time and say, "Hey, you want to buy me a drink?" Nope.
Yeah.
I don't want that woman.
Yeah. So I'm curious, why don't you offer to buy them a drink?
I feel like I'm like paying for your time or something. If I won't pay
Yeah.
for your time, there's other things I can pay for besides with a drink.
Yeah.
I just don't. And I feel like some women come in and they're manipulative that way. They're trying to come in and get guys to buy them drinks.
Yeah.
And I don't want to play that game.
Well, I will tell you that having somebody offer buy a drink, that doesn't mean that they get a date or they get anything. It
Means I've lost
be,
$8 to $15.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a prerequisite, right? It's like it's kind of, I know it's kind of cliche-ish.
Right.
So I wouldn't, if I was you, I wouldn't worry about that, because you know what, like somebody who's going to be a true date option for you, or a partner, whatever that means, but it's going to be somebody who just wants a conversation.
Right. Well,
who's going to be fun, who can share stories, and you're going to get that energy back and forth. It drink's just a drink. It doesn't matter. It does get confusing, like when you are on a date, like who pays for what. Sometimes that's a strong, independent woman. Do I pay for myself? Do I expect him to pay? Do I?
Okay, so my rules on that, and I have rules. I've been developing these rules. Maybe I need to write my book.
Maybe you should.
There was a woman here in the Northwest that I went out with, strong, independent. I'm absolutely certain you know her. She basically had to ask me out, and so we go, and I go to pay. She says, no. I make plenty of money. I ask you out. I'm paying. Okay? I'm not going to argue with you because I don't want to be insultive. I'm not going to argue with you. I asked her out the next time. I paid. And so it was just kind of like whoever asked whoever out, and whoever got the check first, and that's how that rule was. Same with a woman in Knoxville. It was the same way. But I will generally try to lead with paying. If she's insistent, then I'm not gonna.
Yeah, it's the nice gesture that you offered to pay is. I dated a gentleman one time. He never whipped out his credit card. He never even reached for the check. He did. I think he made it maybe 3 dates, because it's like
At some point, dude.
Yeah, it's like even though I had the means and the money to pay at that point, like if you're gonna do that here, how are you gonna do it if we're on a vacation, or if we even get more serious and we're in an actual relationship, and I'm not gonna pay for you all the time.
So I would say you dated a guy, not a gentleman.
Yeah.
Let's just go back and rephrase that statement.
Yeah, a dude.
So first dates, I got rules on first dates.
Okay, what are your rules on first dates?
First dates, you don't go to dinner where you sit down at a table across from each other.
Right, yeah.
Do not do that. And I know it's a simple thing. Everybody's like, oh, let's go do that. Unless you know her. I mean, if we've got to know each other, we've known each other for a while, then going down and sitting down at a table where we are in this awkward, we both know we're on a date, and what we're going to talk about, it gets weird.
It's I don't know, it's like a forced play or something like that. It's
right.
And you're not seeing the real person, I don't think, in that situation.
The first and last time this happened to me, I kind of had this rule, but I just, for some reason or other, didn't enforce it on this one date. She sits down and starts talking. Next thing I know, about a horrible father and stepfather and baby daddy issues and just all this.
And you're stuck at dinner.
I'm stuck at dinner. And I'm just like, I'm glad we drove and met here, one. And then the check came. I got the check because I'm in a hurry. So even if I wanted her to pay,
I
I'm
will pay
willing to.
now and keep the change. I just
Right.
gotta go.
So we do that, and typically after dinner, okay, let's go get a drink and continue the date.
Yeah.
And her and I had met a couple other times on not a formal date, but just kind of impromptu, and just met at the bar, and we'd had a good time. Well, actually, we'd known each other for a long time, and then, all of a sudden, oh, hey, maybe we should hang out. So a couple of days later, she comes up to me and she said, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? Because we're at the bar we always drank at. And I said, sure. And so we get this private table, and she said, what happened the other night? Did I scare you off? Oh, yeah. Yeah, you did. And
You told her.
I told her. Yeah, we'd had a really good relationship prior to that, friendship prior to that. So I told her, I said, this is what you don't talk about on a first date.
Yeah, yeah.
And these are the things that we don't. That's for me. You may find another guy that's.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's like a job interview. You don't go into a job interview and start talking about all your junk. Like,
Right.
well, I spilled coffee all over the computer and I ruined it. You don't talk about that stuff. You go in and you put in kind of you want to be who you are, but you want to be the best version of yourself during that, and light and funny, and some jokes, some interesting quirks from your life, but you don't talk about your therapy sessions and
No. and I was talking to another girl about this. She said, well, you got to understand, maybe she felt like she knew you well enough to go ahead and do that. Maybe. I will give her that. It freaked me out. I didn't want to be a part of it. So the other rule is, so you don't do that, so you go places. So then what do if I don't go to dinner? Well, I go places where things are interactive, things you can do. It could be a farmer's market in the evening, where we're walking through a crowd. There's something that's causing conversation instead of forcing conversation. It may be, hey, we're looking at these soaps, or look over at this artwork, or doing things like that. Plus, if you want to ditch out, you can just kind of ditch out in the crowd and be gone if it's bad.
Oh, sorry, I lost you.
You can eat the street food, so you're not worried about that awkward. And the other thing that's beautiful about this is it allows touch in a non-awkward way.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're going through the crowd and I don't want to lose you, you feel nothing if I reach and grab your hand, or just hit that mic, grab your hand or put your hand on my arm, and we walk through the crowd. You feel nothing awkward if I guide you, or vice versa.
Right. Yeah.
That's out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? That is out of the way. And then if I do go someplace to eat, I sit down at a counter. Again, it allows that awkward, hey, I'm going to reach over, get the salt. There's all that stuff.
So what are you
built
doing
in.
with that awkward? Are you like testing chemistry and stuff during that, or?
I'm removing the awkwardness. So, I mean, it'd be one thing if we're walking into the restaurant on a first date and I reached and grabbed your hand. Or we're driving there and I reach over and hold your hand. That's going to be like, okay, what was that about?
Right, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I had never thought about it so I'm with you. I never liked going out to meal on a first date. I had this one guy, he had been married for like 18 years, and he was, I can't remember what, I think he was like Mormon or something, so very, very religious, and and I get that, and that's cool. I was going to be his first date. And I told him, he asked me.
Oh, he told you that?
Yeah, he's like, I just started dating, and would you want to go out? And I told him, no, I don't want to be your first date. I didn't, like, you go date a bunch of other people, and then, then we'll talk. And he's like, what? And so, anyway, after a few months, I was like, yeah, okay, we can go do something. And he wanted to take me to the melting pot, and yeah, right, I know. And I said,
he's more generous than I am.
I was like, I am not going to go to the melting pot with you. And he's like, oh, no. He goes, I asked all my friends at work. He owned this company. I asked all my friends. They said, this is like a romantic first date. And this is like, yeah, exactly. That's why we are not going to the melting pot.
How about I pick?
Yeah.
There's a hot dog stand downtown.
That's what I told him. I said, there's some really good. I know there's a food cart downtown. They have a great Vietnamese salad.
Oh, I love
that I
it.
like. Yeah, green papaya salad. I said we can go there. There's this festival going on. We can go there. And he's like, you're gonna give up, a sit down dinner to go eat out of a food cart. And I said, yep. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I advise that all day, every day, because I get to see a different side of you. I would even for a first date, I would invite somebody on a first date to come to a barbecue with me.
With your friends and.
Yeah, come on over. That way, I want to see how you interact with my friends, with my family, and again, there's an interaction going on. Now that might be too much for her, but hey, I got a barbecue coming on. You want to come over?
Yeah, because you're not like there's no intimate, personal conversation really, and you feel like you're being judged. Everybody's looking at you. Oh, is she the one? What is she?
That might be too much for her, but I'd be willing to do that, or a music festival, or something like that. But to do those crazy romantic things right off the bat, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. And we're fortunate. You said you live in Tennessee now.
I do now.
And yeah, is it Athens, Tennessee?
It is.
Okay. When you said Athens before, I was thinking Greece, because.
No, but I've been there.
Yeah, it is pretty.
I just stayed in the airport. They wouldn't let us off the airplane.
Oh shoot, you missed.
I did.
Yeah, but we're fortunate here in Portland, Vancouver area, because we do have that Saturday market, and there's all kinds of festivals that come up. There, the beer and wine festival or art festivals and different things, and yeah, I'm with you. Just get out and go do something. Don't sit at a restaurant or I didn't mind sitting and maybe having like a cocktail or a cup of coffee and going for a little walk or something and just as long as you I don't know, not like trapped in that long forced moment of sharing a meal. What other rules do you have for first date?
Let's see. There's that. So I don't eat like that. I'm trying to think through them. Those are primarily the first two rules I have for first dates.
Did you do any dating sites?
Oh, I was going to talk to you about that. I am on dating sites. I don't work them really heavy.
Do you have a picture of you with a fish?
I do not.
Oh, good.
I do have a picture of me in a fur coat.
Oh, that probably gets just a fur coat, or
no, it's a fur coat and a sequin blazer underneath it,
and
then a cowboy hat and these big fat glasses.
Stylish. I think I've seen that picture.
You've seen that picture?
I've seen that picture. Yeah, it's on your.
It's on one of my dating sites.
Yeah.
I do have a picture of. I do have a picture of a bunch of balls. And it says my balls. So it's got footballs, baseballs, soccer balls. And then I have a picture of like a bunch of pecans. It says, "Oh, here's my nuts." And so I've got some stuff like that.
So like weed out the like if they don't have a sense of humor.
Yeah, go away.
Yeah.
Go away. Right. And so I've got stuff like that on there, but I don't fill out the profile extensively. I don't do a lot with it. I did have a date when I lived here one night, which was utter hell. She had invited me over. Okay, I'm gonna come over. And then my son's car breaks down, so I have to go help my son. So I'm messaging with her, okay, I gotta get my son, blah, 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 and I'm doing this, doing that, and I'm running late, and she's getting upset, and I finally get cleaned up. She's like, just forget it. And I said, look, I'm literally heading out the door. I'm 20 minutes away. Okay. I get to her house, thinking maybe we'd pick her up, go do something. She's sitting on her front porch in a saggy old t-shirt and, like, fleece pajama pants.
Welcome to Portland.
This is in Washougal.
Oh no.
And I'm like,
I bet this is going to air. Nothing wrong with Portland or Washougal.
But
she was.
This is how you meet me? Right? And so I'm like, and it's not one of those neighborhoods where you can pull up and act like you're not there to see them.
Right, yeah. She knows who you are and why you're there. And
right. So I get out and she's like, come on in. So I go in. The house is an utter wreck. So that is a rule. So if I go visit you and you're not in the middle of a remodel and your house is an utter wreck,
it's like
this relationship's not going much farther.
Yeah.
Then
yeah. So.
Right, because that tells me a whole lot more that's going on. So we get there, and then she's like, "You want a drink?" I'm like, "Well, I'll take a drink." She goes,
Do you have a clean cup?
"You're gonna love this, Ramona." She comes out, and she goes, "I don't use a glass. I just drink out of the bottle." And hands me the bottle. And she takes a swig and hands me the bottle.
You're
I'm like,
kidding. No.
no. It was.
Yeah,
And
maybe
then
if
she
you're
was,
at a concert and you're the flask is.
right.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
she goes from happy laughing blah to men are horrible. Just I could not get out of there fast enough.
Yeah.
And then
yeah,
you're trying to find
create our
this
own reality.
gracious way to leave, or this way to. Then you think, well, she's a freaking psycho. Just leave.
Is that your craziest date you've had?
Now you got to remember when I started dating, we didn't even have internet, so probably.
Okay, that's and that was an online. You met her online.
Well, that's not the craziest, but.
When you're.
I guess it depends on what you call crazy. I mean, like crazy as far as personality, crazy as far as locker room. I don't want to share on a podcast.
Oh well, let's not go there.
Right.
But just your goofiest. I can't believe that just happened. I don't know what I was thinking.
That might be one of the weirdest ones.
Yeah. I have a son who's dating, and he was on this dating app, and so he was me and one of my girlfriends, and we're going through his app, and so he's 27, and I have to say, dating apps like with the younger generation, everybody's so beautiful on there. I was like,
I want to date that guy.
Yeah, it's like, I was like, you can't make a bad choice here. They all look good, right?
Well,
So.
I was telling a friend of mine the other day about the dating apps. I said I am more judgmental.
It's like going through a Sears catalog. You're just picking.
Right. Right, and I said, and the sad reality is, there's probably some of the women that I didn't select that if I was to meet them in everyday organic life, probably absolutely love them. But
Yeah. It's sad that it's like I do think that you can tell a lot from a photo and how they write and the words they choose to put together. You don't read any. So the difference between a man and a woman, maybe, because I would read them when I
maybe that's why I'm not getting very many likes. I don't write. You should write my dating profile.
I'll get you lots of dates that way. I've done that for people before. You'll have all kinds of women then.
So I was in the bar one night, and this is a bar I frequented when I lived here. And I'm sitting there and I'm paying, and this girl come up and talk to me, and not really paying attention. I'm answering questions, one-word questions. So I'm looking for my, and she walks off, and Tiffany, the bartender, comes up to me, and she said, "What the hell is wrong with you?" Well, I haven't even paid you. What do you mean? What's wrong with me? I thought she was.
Do you want a list or?
She said, "That girl was hitting on you." I said, "What girl?"
You didn't even notice.
She said, "The girl you were talking to." And she was really young, nice looking, really beautiful, probably one of the prettiest girls that was in here. And you just ignored her. Oh.
Did you go?
Yeah, I'm looking around.
Has she left yet?
Well, and then Tiffany's like, "It's too late, dude. Even if you go up, you just totally ignored her."
Are you really clueless when? I mean, do you see that sometimes, don't you? Like.
I might see it more now, but then I was clueless. And Tiffany said something to me about it, and I said, "You got to remember, Tiffany, just what I told you. When I got married, we didn't have internet. So it's been so long since I've dated." But
people are people, and it is a whole different game out there right now, and it's, I don't know, it's kind of it's fun. Friends. Had been dating somebody now, but I friends who are like actively on sites and whatever, and the dating sites, like I met some really good people off. I have friends that are still, we had went on a few dates, and it wasn't a right fit. Not that there was anything wrong with them, but it just wasn't a right fit. And but I don't know, the dating sites are kind of fun.
Right.
I think they're fun.
Well, and it probably would be as a woman, but as a guy, I talked to one woman. She showed me one of her dating sites. And she showed me her messages from today. It was 99 plus messages.
Oh my goodness.
From today. Yeah. And I thought.
So she must be, because 99 guys didn't read a profile. They probably looked at her picture and messaged her.
Right. They didn't read the profile. And what that tells me is she's lost in a sea of information. And how, am I going to stand out in that? What do you got to do to stand out in that? Do I want to put that much effort in to stand out in that? And then even some of the women I meet organically and think, hey, I think I'd like to go out with her. And then I get to thinking through the process, and I get exhausted of thinking about dating. And that's one reason why the woman I was dating before, her and I still have dinner. It's just comfortable. I can go have dinner with her. There's no expectations. It's like we're this old platonic married couple. And people in town are like, you guys are, of course you're dating. You guys just don't know it. And we go back and forth as to who's going to pay. I mean, she's got the money to pay for stuff, and I've got the money to pay for stuff. So we always do that, but it's, oh no, so here's another rule. You did ask rules. I don't ask where you want to eat.
That's a rule of yours?
It is a rule of mine. Now, if you have mentioned a restaurant that you like or a place that you like or that you enjoy, okay, I might go there. But I'm not going to get you in the car and we're driving to, so Ramona, so what do you want to eat?
Okay, so it's something you already have planned out. So you're a planner. You like to hey, we're going to go here and we're going to do that. And then I would imagine is probably what you're hoping is that they're going to say, oh, there? No, let's not go there. or they're going to be, hopefully, that's awesome. Let's go do that.
I was talking to the woman I lived with that I loved here in Washington earlier this week about that very thing. Because she said, I was so mad at you because I took her to this restaurant. It's up here off 164th, Petra House.
Yeah, uh-huh.
So I pull in, and she's like, I don't even like this food. I said, have you ever ate Moroccan food or any type of Mediterranean food? She's like, no. I said, well, I'm hungry, I'm driving, I'm paying.
Boom.
You're
said, eating it now.
If you don't like it, we'll stop at McDonald's.
We'll get you some dolmas, and you're going
to... Well, she was a McDonald's...
A Euro.
She was a McDonald's dollar menu type girl, Little Caesars Pizza. I mean, she had 3 boys, and that's what that's how she did it. And I said, look, if you don't like it, I'll take you to McDonald's. We're golden. She loves that place. It's one of her favorite restaurants to this day.
Yeah. So jumped off the boat.
She jumped off the boat. She said, I was so angry with you that I put that food in my mouth. I was like, oh,
did you sit at one of the low tables?
We did, with the rose water.
Yeah, and they came and washed your hands. And
yes. Well, and that's part of what I wanted her to see is this whole experience. And she did tell me, she said, one of the things I enjoyed about us dating was I got to experience food and find out that there's actually good wine.
Oh, not the box stuff.
Well, was it English Estates? We went to English Estates because I was a member there.
They have a bib.
They do have a bib.
Yeah.
They do. And a bib is basically a box wine, but it's really good.
Yeah, how do they say that? It's something in a beautiful box.
I don't remember it. It's been 2 years. I'm gonna have to
bottle in a beautiful box. Maybe that's what it is.
One, it keeps it fresher longer.
Yeah, because it's got that. It's a bladder.
It's a bladder,
yeah.
And if you're putting it in that, so if you think box wine, you're thinking Franzi. Well, you're not putting great wine in there, but if you put a good wine in there, it keeps it better.
It keeps
longer.
it good, and there's that black box that's pretty good. That wine I went to Thanksgiving.
Not
dinner.
that I keep a bottle of wine long enough for it to go bad.
Yeah.
Which I never understood.
Oxidation on your this is all theory right now.
People keep wine that long. I don't
some of them do, yeah.
Some of them do, I guess.
Yeah.
But I took her there, and they had a wine and chocolate thing. This was probably around Christmas or Valentine. And she got to experience eating the wine and tasting the chocolate and then drinking the wine again. And it just, the complexity of flavors that takes place.
Yeah.
And the fun thing about that was watching her eyes just, oh my God.
Yeah. So on my dating profile, when I had it up, this is what I loved about dating. Is all the cool experiences of what people do and what moves them and
like what?
Oh, I just like that, like Mediterranean food. This woman had a great experience at the Petra House because you took her there. Nobody in her sphere would have taken her there. She would have already experienced that.
Right.
She had to go outside it and meet somebody who said like, hey, I'm driving, this is where we're going, and if you don't like it, we'll drive through McDonald's later.
Yeah,
She's like,
and I
Jerk, but
admit I've had women say, "Well, that's a bit of an ass thing to do."
yeah. Well, and if she would have said, "No, I am not going in.
Well,
Let's
then
go
we'd have
over
found
here.
something else. I
This
had a plan B.
McMenamins is right on the corner. Let's go there."
Right, I had a
Yeah.
plan B. But and then that's what I read a book called No More Mr. Nice Guy, Dr. Robert Glover. It's a marriage and family therapist that's been divorced 3 times out of Seattle. and and he basically there's 2 concepts. One, you teach people how to treat you. And the other one is you create the life you want, and if someone wants to join you, great. If they don't, you've got the life you want. And one of the examples he uses in the book is that he was dating a woman, and he had made plans to go kayaking there on Lake Washington in Seattle for the weekend, on Saturday. She called up and said, "Hey, I'm wanting to go shopping Saturday." He's like, "I don't want to go shopping." He said, "Now, the old Mr. Nice Guy me would have canceled the plans of what I wanted to do and went shopping and would have been miserable. And that would have later led to conflict in our relationship."
Mm-hmm.
He said, the new No More Mr. Nice Guy me said, "You know what? That sounds great, but I've already got plans. I've been looking forward to this. The weather's great. Can we meet later and we'll go have dinner?" And it worked out. And that was something that happened with one woman that I was dating. I love the symphony. And I had gotten tickets from a friend of mine who's a season holder to a winter production at the symphony. So we go down there, and I take her. And within 10 minutes, she's miserable. She does not like it. She's fidgeting. She just does not like it. I can tell, but she's putting up with this because she knows how much I enjoy it. So I've got 2 options. Stay here and enjoy this, or as soon as the curtain lifts for us to go out, I think it was for intermission, we walked out, and I said, "You know what, let's just go for a walk and get something to eat. I'm hungry." And so that's what I did. And it changed the dynamic of the evening. We had a great night, and I just learned a lesson. Don't never take her to the symphony. So
Yeah. And was that her first experience at?
right, but she doesn't like to sit still anywhere. I mean, if I was to take if that woman, if I was to take her to see a movie, it's just not going to go well.
Okay, so you learned a little bit, and that's what I had on my dating profile. Is that I view dating and just interaction with other people, but specifically dating is learning more about myself, learning about others, and learning about self through others.
Right.
And I don't think you can get those lessons, those deeper lessons, without having. I know there's something really unique about the, dating, and that you come across these lessons that are different than what you do with your own normal friends who.
You do, and about yourself. I mean, back to that book and lessons learned. Wasn't really a date, but I'm with a woman. We had ridden together. I was ready to go. It was like 11 o'clock at night. I had to go to work next day. I'm ready to go. I said, "I'm ready to go." She's like, "Okay." So she gets up, and she was ready to go too, I thought. I got my jacket on. An hour later, I'm still standing there while she's telling people bye. And I was just like, I'm starting to get angry. And a friend of mine came up, and he says, "I thought you were leaving." I said, "I am." He said, "Well, just go." And this was in Athens. It's a small town. She didn't live that far away. Everybody that was in there was her friends. Had given her rides home before. I mean, she was in a safe place. And I thought for a second, you know what? He's right, because I'm getting mad at her when in reality I need to be getting mad at me. Somewhere along the line, I've taught her that it's okay to waste my time like this. And the longer I stay here, the more angry I'm going to get. I don't like getting angry.
Yeah.
So I did. I went, got in the car, I texted her. I don't hear nothing from her for about 5 minutes. I went home. And then, we had a conversation about it later. But now if we're going someplace, I usually say, "Do you want me to pick you up, or do you want to ride?"
Yeah. So it's interesting because you just said that she's wasting my time, where she could be looking at you thinking, "Well, how come he's not saying his goodbyes, and how come he's not engaged, and how come he's not going through this like almost a ceremony of saying goodbye, like,
Yeah.
oh, he's a jerk."
Well,
so she could have her own stories about why you're just standing by the door.
her
Right,
daughter, we were out at dinner one night. It wasn't dinner, it was the same place. It was just a small town, so one place really to go eat and hang out with friends and family. And she was in there one night, and I come in. I think I'd gotten off work, and it was open, so I stopped in. I get something to eat. Her daughter was there. They're in their own world. We're all sitting at the bar together, but they're in their own world talking. I got done and left. Paid my tab, went to the bathroom, and left. And then the next day, she said, "Yeah, my daughter asked me where you went." No, she said, I turned around and looked and thought, well, he's been in the bathroom for a long time. She said, finally asked my daughter, "Where'd he go?" She said, "Oh, he left like an hour ago." She said, "Is he mad at you or something?" And she said, "No,
That's just Scott.
he just does that." He just does
he just
that.
goes.
It's just me. Well, what we've got, almost 2 hours in. That wasn't that hard.
Oh, no, that wasn't. That was 2 hours. Wow.
Yeah, we're almost 2 hours. Well, it's an hour
Yeah.
and 53 minutes.
Oh, gosh, you edit this down, right?
No.
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 People listen to this?
They do. I do not edit it. The only thing I do to it is I'll put an intro and an exit. I might cut a little bit off at the front because we were still just kind of
Dinking around.
dinking around with the microphones and the headphones and stuff like that. That is Scott A. Bridwell.
Okay.
So, but no, and I might do some video enhancements. I'll listen to it, see if I need to equalize or do anything like that to it. But no.
Well, it was fun.
Well,
I
thank
have to
you
say,
for
it was a
doing
lot
it.
of fun. I wasn't sure where we were going to go with it, or if you would, like you just had questions off the top of your head, even. So
It's
that was
just a free flow thing. I don't
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever walked in with notes. People, well, okay, back to the dating thing, and if you let people talk, they'll talk.
And that is, it's ask the right questions and just sit back and watch the show.
Which is what I try to tell people when they go into an interview. Answer the question and shut up.
Yeah, be sincere, be succinct, and sit down.
That's right. Answer the question. Shut up. Because they ask a lot of open-ended questions in job interviews. And same thing in dating, or you're looking for stuff.
Here, I have a question for you, though.
Anything you want.
Why are you dating?
Why am I?
Yeah. What are you looking for? Or are you? I mean, what's the purpose of you dating?
I'm not dating. I'm not
Like,
dating.
besides this one woman that you have dinner with twice a week.
Once or twice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do I see her? Is that your question?
No. I was
Okay.
just so I was dating just because it was fun.
Mhm.
I have had friends who, I probably felt this way, because I didn't get married to be single.
Right.
Right. I got married thinking I was going to have a partner for my life, and then I'm single. So the other thing I was like, oh, am I going to be alone? Whatever. And then I don't know. I had fun dating, getting to know people and stuff. It's and I would have. It's funny because I view guys as being players, but I would have guys ask me if I was a player, because I wasn't necessarily looking for a relationship.
Right.
And and I would say, well, I'm not opposed to a relationship. I'm just open to the possibilities, is what I would say. I'm open to possibilities of where this may or may not lead. But at the end, I hope that we can at least be friends, whichever one.
So are you
falls
still friends
into.
with the guys you dated?
I am, several of them.
I am too.
Yeah.
Several of the women I've dated, I'm still friends with.
Yeah, they call me for advice, or they'll call, about who they're dating with, or they'll.
Or nothing.
Yeah.
Or if I'm in town, I might, hey, I'm in town, you want to grab lunch?
Yeah.
Not that I'm looking for anything intimate, not that I'm opposed to anything intimate, but it's just not the goal of it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's friendship and stuff. So anyway,
Well, that's the thing with this one woman in particular. It is a friendship. We share a lot of mutual friends. Again, we'll usually meet for dinner. She was amazing. The day my dad died, she was one of the first persons I called.
Mm.
And she said, "Do you need me to come over?" And I'm like, "It's about to get chaotic here. And you don't know any of my family hardly, and I'm going to feel like I need to be there talking to you." And she's like, "Just call me if you need anything." And so, and she was amazing. And so later that night, when things had calmed down, my brother was there at the house. I messaged her. I said, "Hey, I'm going to this restaurant." She's like, "I'll meet you there." So we went and met and had dinner, and so that was good. So she's just that friend. So she's just a really, really good friend. That we had a good relationship, we had a good time together. And we didn't have a fight. It was just she started her business up, and my work hours changed, and what time I was spending with her was like building racks or doing stuff like that to help get her business up and going, or moving stuff into the shop. And then I gotta go to work, and so and then it just kind
of fizzled out.
I don't know if it's that. It just I don't know. And so
and that's fine.
But why would I date? Well, like I said, on one hand, I'm picky. I have a certain not type, but I have a certain image or whatever. It's very limited where I live. Also, a lot of the women there
I can't imagine in Athens.
Well, and I get some of these southern women are somewhat pretentious in the sense that my barber's a woman, right? And she told me one day, she was cutting my hair, she said, "The women around here just really aren't your type." So what's my type?
Dating advice from your barber.
Right. And she said, probably someone more adventurous, someone a little bit more worldly than what you're going to find around here. Okay, maybe you do know me. And then my aunts will come up to me, "Well, you need to find yourself a good woman." Well, your definition of a good woman and mine might be
two different things.
Two different things. But then I sit around and watch my aunts, and I literally said this. My dad and my uncle was there, and my aunts were all sitting there, and they're just bickering and going back and forth with my dad and my uncles, and just doing that whole at them. And finally I said, "You guys realize you're the reason I don't want to get married again. If this is what I got to live with at that age, I don't want to deal with it."
Check out. Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I haven't found, I guess for me, if it's an organic thing, I'll be okay with it. But even like on the dating sites, I rarely message first. Rarely. And then, the one time I did, the freaking psycho shows up in sweats and hands me a bottle to drink out of.
So I had a rule when I was dating, on especially on those sites. I wouldn't date any men who were from. So my apologies to any men out there from these areas, but if they were from Columbia County, Washougal, Battleground, Longview, like if they lived outside the city at all, I wouldn't respond to the request or date them.
See, and women who put those filters with those little ears and noses and stuff.
Yeah.
Or
the men holding the fish.
What is that?
Those, I don't know. I think it's supposed to say that they're a good provider. Like in that they're adventurous and they have a hobby, which I give. That's awesome.
And shirtless makes it better, I bet.
There was one guy, there was one guy, he was sitting in his fishing boat, and there was blood all over the boat, and he's holding a fish. It's like, oh.
Yeah. This is what I want in my future.
Too much blood for one fish.
That's right. You got a slaughterhouse taking place. Dexter.
Oh.
All right, Mona. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. This was fun.
I gotta get stopped. See, I told you that was fun, right? Ramona was great. I really appreciate her taking time out of her busy schedule to sit down with me for those 2 hours. I know it was a lot to ask of her with the busy schedule that she's got, but I do really appreciate it. Hey, you can find more of these episodes at scottabridwell.com. I'm also on Stitcher, iTunes. I think I'm on SoundCloud. I'm on a bunch of those different podcasting apps like Pocket Cast and things like that. Or, like I said, you can go straight to scottbridwell.com or even Podbean, where I host this, and you can listen to them there. Be sure to subscribe. Also, feel free to check out my website. It's scottabridwell.com. Again, that's scottabridwell.com. Not only do I list these podcasts on there, I also have some writings that I do, kind of a little blog I got going on. And follow me on Facebook. I'm not too hard to find. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, maybe a couple other social networking apps as well. In the meantime, stay tuned. We got Dale Chumbley coming up on episode number 7. Talk to you later. Bye.